welcome. You're here because, well, you want to cut through the noise, right?
Hmm.
Get straight to what really matters for success without getting lost in endless details.
Exactly.
Today, we're doing just that. We're diving into the Certified Business Analyst exam, but think of it more like uh, finding the keys to how projects actually work.
Yeah, and look, even if you're not prepping for the specific exam, these practice questions we're going to go through, they're full of the real fundamentals, business analysis basics, especially, in contexts like Salesforce rollouts.
Right.
This isn't just about exam answers, it's about understanding what makes projects tick, what makes them successful. Basically, we're trying to boil down a lot of experience into something really actionable for you.
So our mission today, it's pretty clear.
Hmm.
Let's pick apart these questions and pull out the absolute core duties,
Yeah.
the essential techniques a good BA uses, from planning all the way to the end.
Hmm.
It's kind of like getting the insider's guide to being a savvy project player. So let's jump right in. First question up. During the planning phase of a Salesforce implementation, what is the business analyst's key responsibility?
Mhm.
Three options. A, conducting user acceptance testing and deploying solutions. B, identifying stakeholders and defining project scope. C, writing code for automation workflows. What's jumping out at you?
Well, it's got to be B, identifying stakeholders and defining project scope. And the really crucial thing here is before you build anything, before you test anything, you absolutely have to know who it's for and what problem you're actually solving.
Right. That makes sense.
It's the bedrock, really. Everything else builds on that.
Yeah, because A, the testing and deployment, that's obviously much later.
Way later.
And C, writing code. I mean, maybe a BA understands workflows, but they're not usually the coder, right?
Not typically their main hat, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, B is where the BA starts adding value right at the beginning.
Okay, so let's dig into that B answer. Identifying stakeholders, defining scope. Why is that so foundational?
Think about it like building a house. You wouldn't start laying bricks without knowing who's going to live there or, how many bedrooms they need, right?
Good point.
It's the same idea. If you don't figure out all the key stakeholders, the people with a real interest early on, you're definitely going to miss important needs. And then you're looking at expensive changes later.
Oh, yeah. Been there.
And a fuzzy scope.
Mm.
That's like a project with no breaks. It just keeps growing and growing, blowing deadlines, busting budgets.
Right.
So for anyone listening who wants to avoid that overwhelm, putting in the work up front to nail down who's involved and exactly what you're trying to achieve saves a ton of pain later.
Sets the whole direction.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Let's move to question 2 then.
All right.
A business analyst, BA, is working with the product owner to prioritize a backlog of user stories for the next Sales Cloud release. What technique should the BA use to ensure alignment with business value? Options are A, Moscow prioritization, B, technical feasibility scoring, C, sprint retrospective.
All right. This one's A, Moscow prioritization. And the big idea here is simple. Not everything on the to-do list is equally important.
Right.
Some things are absolute musts. Others are, well, nice to haves. Moscow helps you sort that out. Make those sometimes tough calls.
Moscow sounds interesting. How does that actually work? What does it stand for?
Yeah, it's an acronym. MOSCOW. It stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. It's a way to categorize features or tasks. Your must haves are like non-negotiable. The thing won't work or deliver core value without them. Should haves are still really important, add significant value, but maybe not critical for the very first launch.
Mm-hmm.
Could haves are desirable. They'd be nice if you have time and resources, but they can wait. And won't haves are things you explicitly decide not to do in this release. Keeps the scope clear.
I see. That definitely provides structure.
Right.
Can you maybe give a quick non-Salesforce example just to make it stick?
Sure. Let's say you're planning a big camping trip.
Okay.
A must-have is probably the tent and sleeping bags, right? You can't really camp without them.
Definitely.
A should-have might be bringing a good camp stove and cooler. Makes things much better, but you could technically survive on sandwiches.
True.
A could-have could be, I don't know, bringing fancy portable speakers. Nice, but not essential.
Yep.
And a won't-have for this trip might be deciding not to bring kayaks because it's too much hassle this time.
Gotcha.
See how it forces you to focus on what's crucial first? That's how you maximize value and, again, avoid getting bogged down. Focus on the musts.
That clears it up perfectly. Okay, question 3.
Let's do it.
What is the primary reason for a business analyst to create a RISE-AI matrix during the discovery phase of a project? Options. A, to define test coverage across different departments. B, to outline user interface design expectations. C, to clarify stakeholder roles and responsibilities?
And the answer is C, clarifying stakeholder roles and responsibilities. The magic of a RACI matrix is really about bringing absolute clarity to who does what. Accountability.
Or ACI, another acronym. Okay, break it down for us. RACI.
Right. It stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed.
Okay.
Think of it like casting roles for specific tasks in the project. Responsible, that's the person or people actually doing the work, rolling up their sleeves. Accountable, this is the one person who ultimately owns the task, who answers for whether it gets done right. Ideally, just one A per task to avoid confusion. Consulted, these are the folks you need input or expertise from before the work can be finished, like subject matter experts.
Got it.
And informed, these people just need to be kept in the loop on progress or when the task is done. They don't actively participate, but need to know.
So it's really about making sure nothing falls through the cracks and everyone knows exactly what's expected of them.
Precisely. You avoid that classic, I thought you were doing that problem.
Yeah, or the opposite, too many people trying to do the same thing.
Exactly. Doing a RACI early in discovery sets clear expectations from the start. For any given piece of work, everyone knows who's doing it, who owns it, who needs to chip in, and who just needs an update. It brings that structure and clarity people crave.
Makes total sense. Seems like a really valuable tool.
Okay.
Let's tackle a common BA challenge next. Question 4.
Okay.
During a stakeholder interview, a sales manager expresses frustration with the lead conversion process, but can't articulate specific problems. What is the most effective next step for the BA? Options. A. Recommend a pre-built Salesforce solution. B. Share data from similar clients to guide the discussion. C. Use root cause analysis techniques like 5 whys.
The best move here is C. Use root cause analysis techniques like 5 whys and the key insight. Sometimes the problem people mention first isn't the real problem. You got to dig deeper.
The 5 whys. Okay, that sounds pretty intuitive, like a curious kid, maybe. How does that work in a business setting?
That's actually a great analogy. It is like being persistently curious. It's an iterative questioning technique. You start with the problem statement, the frustration, and just keep asking why. You probe deeper into the answers you get. It might not always be exactly 5 whys, could be fewer, could be more. The goal is to peel back the layers from that vague complaint to find the actual root cause, the specific thing you can maybe fix.
Can you walk us through a quick example? With that sales manager, maybe.
Sure. So the manager says, I'm frustrated with lead conversion. Okay. BA asks, why are you frustrated?
Right.
Manager, because we aren't converting enough leads. Okay, second why. Why aren't you converting enough leads? Manager, well, because the follow-up takes too long. Third why. Why is the follow-up too slow? Manager, because my reps aren't getting notified quickly enough when a hot lead comes in. Fourth, why? Why aren't they getting timely notifications?
Selling somewhere.
Manager, I guess the system isn't set up to send those instant alerts. Fifth, why isn't the system configured that way? Manager, I don't think we ever asked for that specifically during the initial setup. Boom, you went from general frustration to a very specific actionable gap. A missing system configuration.
Right.
That's the power of it. It turns vague feelings into concrete problems you can actually address. It helps find those aha moments.
That's brilliant. It really shows the value of digging.
Right.
Okay, question 5 is about validation.
Right.
A business analyst needs to validate that a new case escalation process meets business needs before deployment. What should the BA do? Options.
Yeah.
A. Review the final process with developers only. B. Facilitate a user acceptance testing UAT session.
Yeah.
C. Create a Gantt chart for deployment activities.
The answer here is B. Facilitate a user acceptance testing UAT session. And the really vital point is this. Just because the code works doesn't mean the process works for the people who actually have to use it every day.
UAT. User acceptance testing. We hear that term a lot. Why is it so crucial for checking if something meets business needs?
Think of it like letting someone test drive a car you built for them. The engineers, the developers, they might know the engine runs perfectly. That's kind of like option A, reviewing with developers.
Okay.
But UAT is putting the actual intended driver behind the wheel on real roads, doing the things they'd normally do to see if the car actually meets their needs. Does it handle well? Is it comfortable? Does it do what they expected?
So it's about getting the perspective of the end user, the person who will actually live with this new process.
Exactly. Developers focus on technical correctness. A Gantt chart, option C, that's just about scheduling the rollout. UAT is a bridge. It confirms that what was built actually solves the business problem effectively for the users. It's absolutely critical validation.
Makes complete sense. Got to make sure it works in the real world for real people. Okay, our last practice question, number 6.
Final one.
The BA is documenting requirements for a new Salesforce Experience Cloud portal. What best practice should the BA follow when creating user stories? Options. A. Include detailed technical configurations in each story. B. Write stories from the perspective of system administrators. C. Ensure stories follow the "as a user, I want action," so that value format.
The clear best practice here is C. Use that specific format. As
Yeah.
a user, I want action, so that value. And the core principle behind this, keeping the focus laser sharp on the user and the benefit they get.
We've mentioned user stories. Why is this particular structure, this template, considered so important?
Well, think of it as a mini recipe for empathy and clarity. As a user, forces you right away to think about who this is for, a customer, an agent who
Right.
I want action, clearly spells out what capability they need, what do they need to do.
Okay.
And the crucial part, so that value, this explains why they need it. What's the benefit? What's the motivation? This structure makes sure the whole team, developers included, understand not just the what, but the who and the why.
So it connects the feature directly to the user and the business outcome. No ambiguity.
Exactly. Option A, putting detailed technical stuff in there just clutters it up and distracts from the user need.
Yeah.
And option B, writing only from an admin's view, totally misses the point for the actual end users of something like a customer portal. This standard format, as a type of user, I want some goal so that some reason keeps everyone aligned on delivering real value.
Can you give just one quick example?
Sure. As a Platinum Support customer, I want to see my case history immediately upon login so that I don't have to search for previous interactions. See, clear user, clear action, clear benefit.
Perfect. Wow, okay. Understanding these fundamentals, it's really just the start. But it's a solid start to getting a much deeper grasp on how businesses operate and how projects, well, how they succeed.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a really valuable deep dive. Thanks so much for walking us through it.
My pleasure. It's great chatting about it.